Hi everyone, this is Saad Masood. Welcome to the channel. Today I want to talk about how should you go about finding a job in such a competitive marketplace. We all know it's brutal out there. A lot of fresh graduates, a lot of professionals out there who are underemployed, who are unemployed, who are laid off recently. They're all struggling to find the right kind of job for them. And this is a time, by the way, when the market is supposedly okay, it's supposedly decent. I'm not going to get into that right now in this video. I've got some thoughts on the economy. That's a separate video. I also have some thoughts on my wish for all of you watching to only work for yourself. That too is a separate video. This video is about finding a job. Look, you've got to be strategic. Stop being tactical. The market is over flooded with talent, and there's just not enough seats or chairs for you to be able to absorb all that talent. So what do I mean by being strategic? First is stop spraying and praying. Stop spraying and praying. What that means is, just like I had done it 20 years ago, I would have sent out my CV and resume to thousands of people and just pray that somebody would just say, oh yeah, I want to give this guy a call to see, maybe we can do an interview or something. Nothing happened. I got zero response with that. And I see the same thing happening now with students even 20 years later. It's the same story. There's just too many people out there in the market, and no matter how many times you send your emails out, how many times you post it on the web, people are just not getting responses. I'm talking about for most people. So how do you become strategic about it? So I think it's narrowing down your focus. So don't think in terms of I need to be employed by any of the 30,000 companies out there. That's just the wrong way to look at it. You've got to narrow down by industry and by job description. These are the two things you need to narrow down. And it doesn't necessarily mean that this is the end all be all, but I'm just telling you how do you start. Narrow down by the industry. So what did I do? I was an electrical engineer, though I didn't want to be an engineer. I did my bachelor's in electrical engineering, and I was running a startup, and I got some tremendous experience running a startup. So I really enjoyed the business side of things. Okay. My grades in my undergrad were too low as an electrical engineer. I had like a GPA of 2.6, 2.7. I wasn't getting much traction there. So what I thought was I got creative. I said, okay, I am somebody who really wants to get on the business side, but my background, so to speak, is on the engineering side. So why don't I pitch myself to technology companies, to engineering companies, where they can have me work on the business side. So I'm somebody who understands both, and both the engineering as the business side, so get me involved on the business side. So all of a sudden my focus went from thousands of companies to a few dozens of companies. And those companies, then I said I want to work for medium to large companies. That was my initial screen. So when I did that, then I was down to maybe, like 30 companies or something like that. And in doing so, I was able to really focus in. So now I knew these are the companies I want to work for, but if I want to work for them, I want to work for them on the business side, not the engineering side. I'm not a programmer, not a coder, not a developer. I want to be somebody on the business end. So then the next thing what I did was I started understanding their job descriptions that were available. And in doing so, I started reaching out to human resources, and I would, maybe call, I don't know, just throw a number out there. Let's say I'd make 10 phone calls to different companies' HR, and out of those, maybe 2 would pick up the phone. And they would say, and I would say, just look, I just need some information on this. That's it. I just want to understand what you guys are doing. And then you've got to be able to, be nice and just kind of have the ability to kind of, stretch the conversation a little bit beyond what you're discussing and try to understand the big picture as well. And I was really surprised. A lot of information I got from these HR professionals was fantastic. They were able to tell me the company's strategic vision over the next few years and how that ties in with my micro, level job opportunity that I was looking for. And it just really empowered me with a lot of knowledge. And when I had that, I would take that knowledge and make me look smarter for the next conversation I was about to have with another company. And I kind of did that just for the research, the education side of it. Just first educate myself on what's out there. And once I kind of had a good feel for things, then I said, okay, so I understand now the trends in the market, the companies that are leading this, and the jobs that tie into those trends. So now I was more informed. And once I was comfortable with that, now I started then, also focusing on my CV, on my resume. I tried to, highlight the things that would really help me go after these job descriptions. One of the job descriptions I would go after all the time was business analyst. And so it was not programmer, it was not coder, it was analyst. And so I kind of tried to incorporate as much of financial analysis, marketing analytics, whatever I could stuff in and tie it into the tech sector as much as I could. So I would go after those job descriptions, and then I would tailor my CV accordingly. I'll do some other videos on CVs as well later on and resumes, but just stay with me on this one. So that was the first thing. I defined my focus, industry, job description. This is it. The second one was networking. I mean, naturally, I was not really built for networking. I just didn't really like to make the extra effort and to do small talk and try to have a smile on my face and try to get going with a lot of these these job opportunities. It just felt artificial to me, I'll be honest with you. And so I was kind of just kind of feeling repelled, but what happened was, because I'd done so much homework already, when I started meeting a few people here and there, and they would, the conversation was fairly balanced. Like, it was not like they were speaking 90% of the time and I was only speaking 10% of the time, and that too asking questions. It was almost kind of like 70-30, where I would also add some value based on what I had done in terms of my research. And I think it helped me tremendously in the networking side, because people started respecting me a little bit, that, okay, this kid is fresh out of grad school, he's got this little startup on the side, but he's also, and it seems like he's put some thought into this. He's just not shown up and said, nice to meet you, and and tell a few jokes and say, hey, hook me up with a job. So I think you gain credibility by showing that you've done your work, and I had done my work. So that was very important. And then once I started getting comfortable in networking, then I was networking like crazy. Like, I was just talking to people and walking away with every conversation. I would walk away with at least one referral, that who should I be talking to next. And then I would, it was kind of like, I just started doing these networking loops, right? And I was finding common people amongst the network, right? Because we're only so far apart in degrees of separation. I would meet this person on the West Coast and this other person on the East Coast, and I think like 2 months later I found that both of them ended up knowing some common people, and it was great because it helped me build myself into the network. And that was fantastic. And they would guide me into, okay, these are the jobs that are coming up. They're probably not going to post them, but this is, if you're interested, I can refer you to that. And those are the really best kind of opportunities, where you're not competing with the entire world, and you're really just kind of going direct to the decision makers, the hiring managers. And when I did that, it was powerful. Like, I was getting a lot of interviews, and by a lot, from my standard, I was getting almost like 2 to 3 interviews every month. And that went on for about 6-7 months, and then some follow-up interviews and all that. So from my standard, that was extremely high, because before that, for thousands and thousands of emails, I was getting 0 responses, leave alone interviews. So all of a sudden, when my focus became, you can say, quality over quantity, it really started paying off. And that's what I would suggest to you as well. When you network, don't just network by just showing up everywhere, and but have something intelligent to contribute. And then when you talk to certain people, try to find more leads after that. It's kind of like, think like a salesperson. You've got to be able to build a funnel. So think about building your career opportunity funnel, and that way. So yeah, at strategic level, network, and network smart. The third one is follow-up. It is so important, and a lot of us don't do that, and we don't realize. If you want your network to build and grow, because end of the day, you should not need a CV or a resume. Your network should be able to connect you and secure you. So what really you're building is your network, your relationships. But if you have a reputation of somebody who just bounces around from people to people and there's no follow-up, there's no appreciation of what the other person has done for you, there's no sort of, I just want to let you know, came to you last year, you helped me a lot, and this is where I am, and I just want to take you for coffee or whatever, something small. It doesn't mean anything. Nobody wants money from you. But what people want is that if you want to be part of their network, of their group, they want you to be somebody who is sociable and not somebody who's just leeching off of people's time and network resources. Okay, so make sure you follow up. Every meeting that you go to, that you've been referred to by somebody, I always make a point that I don't even text. I pick up the phone, I set up an appointment, and I call them, and it takes maybe 30 seconds. But that effort goes a long way. That tells them that I truly appreciate, and that I have common courtesy, I have manners, but I also truly appreciate what they've done for me. And then afterwards, I keep them keep them abreast of what's going on. And that's what needs to be done, because without that, people will not necessarily view you in the best of light. And it's a small world. So please make sure, a lot of you young folks out there, I know that you're scrambling to just land anywhere, but when you do that, when somebody helps you, make sure you don't shoot yourself in the foot. That you've done everything and you've crossed the finish line and fantastic, you've got the job, and then you totally forget about the people who got you there. Because eventually it's going to come across as whether you're not very mature, you don't have, maybe you don't have manners, you don't understand what common courtesy is. Whatever it is, believe me, it's not in a positive light. So try to make sure that you have follow-up in your system. When you do business, follow up with people. Otherwise it just looks like, people feel like they're used. So don't do that. Follow up is important in your job search. Follow up with HR, follow up with hiring managers, follow up, send out emails to people, phone calls, follow up with people who referred you there. Follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. So with that, I hope these 3 tips were helpful. My friends, think strategically. This is not the era to be tactical. Tactical people are going to be left behind. Think strategically. It will require you to put more effort, will require you to build self-awareness. All of these things I'm going to talk about in later videos. But this requires, obviously, you pushed outside of your comfort zone a little bit. Sending out emails to everybody, spraying and praying, waiting for somebody to get back to you, it doesn't require that much effort. It's the easy way out, and guess what? You get what you put in. So send me your questions. I would love to answer them for you to the best of my ability, and I wish you all the very best. Until next time, go after it. Bye.